Welcome to another segment of Logical MGTOW. This is Logical MGTOW Spock. Um, Apparently that it doesn't. There's still a bit of a question, even within the MGTOW manosphere, that if there was truly and factually a matriarchal society known as a female-dominated society, and I watched at least one video that mentioned that aspect of a MGTOW member, and I can tell you logically that there was a matriarchal society, um, and eventually, like I said, that the society eventually fell, and that particular society was more than 100 years ago in this calendar. In accordance to this calendar, it was more than 100 years ago. Um, and it stands to reason that if many people really pay attention to this, um, that if there is going to be a moderate to large or even minor moderate to large, right, of society, I there has to be there has to be a general, shall we say, name for it or labeling for it, in the sense of a metaphorical name for it, really, in that sense, which is basically the both labels of societies are generally metaphorically, as it's been well established in various ways or aspects, whichever. But the one thing is that yes, there was a matriarchal society known as the female-dominated society. Did that mean that that the female gender was better in stature as well as a population or the populous aspects of things, if you want to put it that way? No, that wasn't the case. It was just the fact of possibly in maybe in a or maybe in a general aspect or theological aspect that that there was more women being born than there were men. Our fault? No, the base of nature. Was it due to a particular position while procreation was in the general aspects of why, right? No. But nonetheless, there was a female dominated society known as the Matriarchal Society. There was a aspect of where eventually, anyways, to where there was maybe an imbalance, you know, even in the beginning parts of that particular known society, and of course, eventually it went into stability for a short length of time, of course, not a short length of time, which I know many of you MGTOW members probably would think, but no, I'd say what maybe almost as long as the male-dominated society, almost, if not maybe close to. But the male-dominated society that we know of today, even, has gone on much longer, actually. Yeah. And in order for a society to fall, there has to be some sort of imbalance that is not repairable. Be that, of course, it could be also the fact that the reason why there was was not following, and yet I know MGTOW members would like this part of it, is that they didn't want to take the time to rebalance it or restabilize it, or they probably thought, no, it's not really fallen, it hasn't really fallen, it's just a whatever number of excuses, but but the basic fact is that if things are not tended to and taken care of appropriately and logically, it can fall. Much like the Matriarchal Society did. And yes, I know that also even within the MGTOW manosphere that it could be the fact of the way women started acting much like they are now in today's day and age, especially with the feminist and Me Too movement. Even a percentage, a moderate to large percentage before the reformation of the two movements. The basic fact is that nobody will know really. Nobody really knows why or how exactly the society known again as the female-dominated, aka matriarchal society, fell. If we knew, then there might be also an aspect where we, in our own right, know why or how. We can come up with various different aspects to it, really. But which one is any of them would be conclusive and factual, right? And it doesn't have to, and it doesn't logically go to the points to where just because a particular gender acts a certain way or reacts a certain way to anything, even in the negative sense and illogical ways and whatnot, like the female gender is doing even currently. Um, there had been something much more than that, much deeper. But suffice to say, nobody really knows. Nobody. It may take a number. It may take a whole entire lifetime, more than a whole entire lifetime, to figure that out. Even the female gender themselves wouldn't be able to figure it out, nor would they even want to really take the time to figure it out. So it's better to leave things as they are. When it comes to the society aspect, leave it as it is, where it's the male dominated society and there's no way to know exactly how it fell or why the matriarchal society fell, in which of course at one maybe 20, 30 years after or so that they had to have a particular metaphorical labeled society event, because between the matriarchal society falling, there could have been a need without voting of a general society to be metaphorically labeled and to be established as such, for the society to be established as such. Now, the way the females have acted thus far, there was no complaints. There was a moderation of complaints in the 1970s because nobody really understood why there was a ERA, feminist movement, in the 1970s. Nobody knew why there was a movement even in years before, essentially orchestrated by females, especially. And yes, there was movements orchestrated by men too. Yes, but it they got their word through a lot quicker than the females, obviously, right? That's that's the general society. That's the general base of what we know of today, even today. Now, what the understanding of it is that in today's day and age, that even from the 1990s, that women have started doing what men have done, as if it's some sort of a comeback, like a okay, if you could do it, I'm going to do it type of thing. Which basically doesn't really make anything. It doesn't really solve anything really in that sense. But the females have done it left and right more than men even have done even currently. And women have done it even more so in this part of the century of the millennium, more so than any of us men have. There's a small number of men that are still doing it, granted, yes, possibly. But there's a larger percentage of known women still doing it. And who's protecting them as they do it? The government. It is white knighting for them. And in so many ways. One being the court system. Pardon me. But the basic fact is, with this particular movement, the current feminist and Me Too movement, think that they are doing something that is needed and necessary when it's not, because the ERA has already established plenty of what's logically needed for the women, even as it was seen then to now. How do I know that there was a Matriarchal Society? Did I have, shall we say, an alter life of sorts of before this life? No. I did I live two general lives like I am living this life? No. But the basic fact is that if you watch Home Improvement, even I don't know if it's on YouTube or not, or even BitChute for that matter. The late actor that played Wilson on Home Improvement mentioned it. That's how I knew about it. Then I looked more into it. Even with what was said, they still have no logical, actual understanding of what made it fall or what the reason for it was. And in order to have the character of Wilson saying this on a particular sitcom, there has to be some sort of actual behind the scenes, right? Much like there is in anything and everything that Star Trek has done and even has shown. In that case, in the scientific aspect, scientific to reality, even in scientific theory, even known scientific theory. Does that solve anything? Probably not. Does that answer anything? Probably not. But the basic fact is that the basic fact is that this is an actuality, though. We may be able to survive without a metaphorical label, but who's to say if we want to put ourselves through that, or even if we want to be going to the points of living in a number of centuries or years, if you will, of no label of either of the two, and either of the two being the male or female dominated society. We've been more than used to the one current, much like they were used to, like the youth of the Matriarchal Society was used to it being known as Matriarchal Society, what they grew up in. So why make things more difficult and proclaim that there is no known base of labeled metaphorical society, metaphorically labeled society? Hmm? It's better to leave well enough alone and just leave it as the male dominated society. And I know men more than many men would agree with that. But I know even today's woman probably doesn't. And even if they do agree with that, to maybe even a moderate to fair percentage, or whatever percentage, it doesn't have to be any particular size either. But they want more fairness and more equality and more entitlements. No, because that's not realistic. That you want to, unless you want to live in a place like Disneyland, then it might be. But we men don't want to live in a place like Disneyland. Yes, Disneyland is an amusement park. That's as far as it'll go. We don't want to live in a world that goes to the points of fairy tale crap. It was all well and good as children. When we were children, it was all well and good. Even as we explored the world around us, even from that point, even before that point. But there comes a time, ladies and men as well, that we have to grow. We have to realize that whole fairy tale storybook thing is dead and gone. When we become adults, and even when we become to the points of, say, teenagers, from, say, I'd say 16 on up and 20 on up, and all the way even in your 30s and whatnot, right? The age bracket, or differential, if you will. Um, it's good to read a fairy tale, but we cannot act as if we're living it, or as if we expect to get things as easy as it was written in the fairy tale books. Because that's not that would be, I mean, if it was that easy, that would be basically saying, well, we're not really living, are we? If we expect things to be given to us so easily and so freely, we're not really benefiting ourselves at all. We're not really learning anything at all. We're not really working towards anything. In a spiritual sense, that this planet is seen as a educational learning ground of sorts. We learn as we go in any point of our lives, on any level of our life. in any particular situation that we have or are and have been dealing with and have dealt with, even no matter how difficult it may have seemed in the beginning, or how unfair various parts of it seemed to us, but we were able to pull through. In hindsight, we could easily say that the feminist and Me Too movement is going to the points of unfairness, unreality, non-reality, which basically it is. But to the women, even in current, they don't think so. And what they think is that the men have to still do what women expect of of um, of us men, in the sense that women get what they want as if it is a fairy tale bullshit land when it's not. So that the woman doesn't really have to work towards what they really want. But we men have had to continuously work toward what we want. That goes to the points of unfairness, non-reality, no equality, no nothing positive at all. No nothing logical either in that sense. It was also thought that way in the 1970s when the ERA was established as the ERA, the feminist movement of the 1970s, before the ERA, known as the Equal Rights Amendment bill, was put through Washington D.C. in between 78 and 80. And be that, of course, between 78 and 1980. So basically, men and future MGTOW members, of what I'm telling you is an actuality. It's more than logic. It's more than reality. It's more than factual and spiritual. It may not be 100% spiritual, but in some perspective, it is. In the human equation, it is spiritual, as well as factual reality and whatnot else, and logical. So generally, the fact of it is that women, you can do what you're doing right now, or you can learn of what's being said on this video, and take it from that. Because on one aspect, it doesn't help a society for one side to try to get back at the other gender, be that where you women think you're getting back at the other gender, being us males, for cheating on you. You want to cheat on us, but yet you want to take it a step further to where you think that we have to forgive you for cheating on us men and stay with you. When the sexual playground in the same level, in the same aspect, is not safe at all. It's never been safe, really. Because in between the, I'd say, 30s to 80s, it's a pretty long there, ain't it? There was a disease is known as herpes, as well as gangrene and various others. But the known sexual aspect was herpes. Of course, you can also get gangrene and various other ones in the sexual aspect as well. But but it's gotten much more dangerous, much more risky for both genders, for like it or not. And many people have thought, oh, this is the government's doing of coming up with the base of AIDS, HIV, STD, and various other things. No, it, the whole thing is within the human cell that form into a particular thing. It's all scientific. In a short way of putting it, it's all scientific. What's in us is all part of science, medical science, to start. What's in you women is not only part of nature, but also part of science, medical science especially. What's in us men, same thing. We may know that already, but it goes to the aspect is that you women are shortening your lives by cheating on us men. As much as men have shortened their lives by cheating on you women, but yet you want to try to do a give back at us men by doing the things that we've done to you in the past or in the past years. There's no logic in that. There's no logic in what you're doing even today, ladies. And even in the aspect of is that there are more and more men not going towards the sinful aspect gradually. Gradually, there's becoming more and more men not going towards the sinful aspect. Yet there are still a small to moderate percentage of them that are still going against the sinful aspect. But we cannot do anything about that. Only Heavenly Father, and between Heavenly Father and that those number of men and women, men and other women can do can be dealing with that on their own, right? Just have to be in the sense of if they keep doing it, the sinful and whatnot, they'll be judged for it for doing so. Be that, of course, they can go straight to the pits of hell. No matter even if you do or don't, there's still a chance you can go straight to the pits of hell. But also, women who have been known to kill innocent people, including children, as well as men, will be judged and possibly go through the pits of hell. Same thing with men. It's all spiritual in that aspect. That is after that general action, human or known to be human aspect or action, which isn't really not really human if you end another person's life. It's not really human at all, but nonetheless, it is dealt with spiritually. So, ladies, you need to realize what I say to be an actuality, as well as many men need to realize the same thing. I'm not gonna sit here and say of how many are and how many are not, because the percentages could be ever so changing. Seriously, it could be. So I could say 1% and it'd be a totally different percentage, or I could say a higher percentage. It could be a moderate to low percentage. I can say a low or moderate percentage. It could be a higher or moderately high percentage. Much like of the reason why the Matriarchal Society fell, nobody will know. Same thing on the percentages aspect. So, in all aspects, ladies, what you're doing and trying to claim that you're fighting for equality for both men and women, you're not. You're only doing it for yourself. And you are only doing it because you feel that you're not being heard, and yet you've been heard. You've been heard even through the ERA. the 1970s feminist movement. You are able to, from that point, you were able to work. You're still able to vote. There's many more rights than that you realize that you have outside of the wage gap. And there's no such a thing as a wage gap. There will never be such thing as a wage gap for you women, especially. And there is no such thing as wage gap in general. You women are sent home early for safety reasons. You women are asked to stay home for medical as well as, shall we say, um, reasons in the sense of maternity. And for the safety of the child as safety as equal to the safety and medical safety of you as well. And your health and the child's health. And the well-being of both. But yet you want to fight as if you want to fight, you want to protest as if that's not fairness at all. You're wasting your time because it's not going to change. If you change it, then you're really hurting yourself by doing that. By the way, because if you change that, then the base of the working world, even if the woman doesn't feels that she needs to stay home at any given point, they'll expect you to work even while you're pregnant, and you may not feel up to it. Even with that aspect of even if you go to the point of, well, if we feel that we need to go home and we don't feel up to work, and they should let us know. The way you're going about things right now, it won't. It would have if you left things well enough alone, even on that aspect. But seeing that you're not, ladies, there's a good chance of where you will have to work and be expected to work while pregnant, and even after pregnancy. But that doesn't do anything better for you or the child, does it? Does it? So, ladies, until you realize that you cannot cheat on us, because you obviously don't want us to cheat on you, and generally in the in the spiritual aspect, it's a major sin of if either side does, no matter what the reason may be. Even with your indecisiveness, it doesn't give you a reason. Your emotional psychological indecisiveness doesn't give you a reason. Your inadequacies within you doesn't give you a reason. Our inadequacies within us doesn't give us a reason either does. Our own level of indecision is way lower than yours because we don't have a high level of indecision when it comes to various, if not more than various numbers of things and decisions and actions. Why? Who's only we know on when it comes to us. But you may say the same thing about it, ladies, for you, but it doesn't ring true. And yes, you women still are and more in touch with your feelings and emotions that you try to get us men to be the same way, but yet when you succeed in that, you leave us and try to get someone a lot better, or so called a lot better, but nobody's really better. Because I know the same thing, you'll do the same thing to the other guy, then the other guy, then the other guy. It doesn't really help a damn thing. No, it doesn't. And it keep on going from branch to branch, riding the cock carousel every fucking time. Which basically doesn't really solve your happiness, does it? Emotionally as well as psychologically. Doesn't help you mentally either, ladies. And it doesn't help you even in the spiritual sense, especially. So DOS gags, MGTOW bro, logical MGTOW spot right here is has said exactly what I've said in the particular topic that you mentioned on 10/28 2019, when you mentioned people say that there was a matriarchal society, but you don't believe so, or you don't think so, right? I just said there was. If you want to talk more, my friend, let me know. We can talk via YouTube. Be that, of course, in the conversation chat thing, right? Of course, we'll probably have to go through what's known as Hangout, and in order to post it on YouTube. Um, and and we can talk. Um, or we can talk on Messenger via Facebook as well, and or Instagram on the phone app. If you ladies want to, if you ladies also need to think about what I said here as well as what I said on my other one earlier the day before yesterday. Because it won't change. And then with that, ladies, more and more men are going to keep going MGTOW because you're really not really doing any better for yourself by going the way you're going right now, ladies, especially with the feminist and Me Too movement, which basically the movements are not logical. The movements are not necessary, even within the base of reality. All you're doing is acting like children. And the base of living in a fairy tale land of um, I mean, like reading and being read at bedtime when you're very young. The storybooks of um, Cinderella and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin and various others. You cannot expect to get the same things and think that you have the higher base of entitlements and expect to get things so freely as much as it's written in those books. It's time to wake up and deal and to learn to better deal with reality and society, and even in today's society. Yes, life can be hell metaphorically and emotionally. Life can be unfair. It's not fair for us men, even though it may seem like it. It is for us men to a certain, even to a certain extent. But we all have to deal with a lot of different things at different points of our lives, and women deal with the same things, but in a different way, and at different times for each different person. Same thing for us men. The basic fact is also, ladies, is this. The more you expect things to be given to you so freely, like it was given to Cinderella, Snow White, and the princess of Aladdin, and the princess of Beauty and the Beast. You cannot expect that because that's a storybook. You cannot be living your life on a storybook base or level and call it reality. You might as well then if that's the case, you might as well get a candy coated vehicle and call that a real car then, huh? Or a candy coated house like a gingerbread house and say, oh, that's where I'm going to live. And eventually people come by and just pick at it and eat the candy out. And then eventually eat the fucking walls. The known Hansel and Gretel aspect of it. I know it's hard for when we're just about to be out there in the real world, even independently, that things are always going to be questionable, even at first. Even when it comes to the dating world, things are going to be questionable, even at first. But we don't have to go so far in the sense of thinking that we should get higher entitlements or higher base of anything more than say the other gender, because the entitlements and fairness is always like this on an even scale, and it will never change. There's ways to deal with things even in today's reality through spirituality and learning to better understand things. Yes, we all need some support and help. Yeah, and that's okay. That is okay. But the basic fact is that you women are going about it the wrong way, guaranteed, even today. With the feminist and Me Too movements, guaranteed. You are going about it the wrong way. Even by cheating on us, which is basically a sin. And even if you repent the one time and you start doing it again and again and again, you're not going to be easily forgiven like that every time you do it. And you're not really doing anything better for yourself because the sexual playground is dangerous. Between the 20s through the 1970s and 80s, there was known a sexual disease known as herpes. It's still around to this point, even. But then, of course, with the fact of people think, oh, the government thought of these other diseases being AIDS, HIV, and STD, and various others, right? No, it's all scientific within our bodies. The cells that form into various things and kind of not interact, kind of like the ones that are supposed to interact, kind of like go their separate ways and interact with something that they shouldn't. You could look at it that way too. Yeah. In which forms the disease is what we have today. It's a scientific medical thing. So, ladies, and this also goes to men as well, you need to really learn, for ladies, you need to learn that you cannot live the fairy tale land of ways of thinking and living. You cannot go by that because the more you go by that, you're not really you're not doing yourself any better. You're not doing your relationships any better. You're not doing anybody, not even your own child or children, any better by going that way. You're not doing anything better even when it comes to your own well-being either. Within your and you're not doing your inner self any better either. And you're not doing your spiritual self any better. It is said even in my church that the the spiritual body is formed the way we are now, for example, and that spiritual body is put in us as children, as infants. The adult-sized spiritual body is put within us as infants, and it grows along with us. Whether you believe that or not, I don't care if you're an atheist or not, it's still spiritual, realistic, logical facts. And what happens within the body, the human body that is not is not the fault of the spiritual body either. And why things happen to us the way they do and the way they have is not is not the fault of any spiritual being either. Things just happen. Like I said, like I've been saying to many people, that this planet that we're in and that we've been living on for, it doesn't matter how many years we've been on this planet. And many people go by age differentials of how long they've been on this planet. But nonetheless, each and everything from infancy, toddler on up, we learn different things, new and different things, new to us, maybe not so new to our parents, maybe not so new to our older brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews and such, right? But it was new to us as it was new to them at one point. Many things that even we haven't really been faced with is new to us as it was and is new to them. Many things that we don't want to deal with, we learn to deal with emotionally, psychologically, and various other ways, as well as spiritual. Yes, life can be hell, can be seen as hell. Life can be seen as unfair, but the one thing is, and it's been said in many different ways by many different people who, even those who do go to church. And yes, I have gone to church since last anyway. And what that is simply that even if you do or do not believe in Heavenly Father, or and for a number of those don't believe in that there's a Savior, being Jesus Christ. Of course, I believe there was one religion that only goes by Moses, which I believe is the Jewish faith. But the basic fact is, nonetheless, Heavenly Father knows exactly what we can and cannot handle. Even as we learn, even as it comes to us, we learn to better deal with it as long as we do it as do and deal with it a step at a time. And even as we do other things, we learn to deal with it a step at a time, gradually. Even within ourselves, the same thing. Even within our situations, even married or not, same thing. We have learned. We have. It's been. We've been doing this since since the dawn of time. The human base and equation has been putting us in and through this spiritually to start with since the very first aspect of man and woman, be that even after Adam and Eve. And even Adam and Eve themselves had to deal with various things, even as they learned, as they went on living. Many people may not believe that there was an actual Adam and Eve, but there was. You want to call it mythological or whatnot, you can do so, but eventually you'll find that there was. You can call it anything you want, really, but it's not going to ring any less true, and it's not going to ring any less factual of what I've said thus far as well. The basic fact, also, ladies, is that you may think that you're doing something to better society or to better the world around you. No, you're not. There's ways to do it without movements. And yes, us men can join in with you, but in order for us to actually do that, you have to go to the points to where you cannot get high expectations, and you have to go to the points to where you don't get the thought of thinking that you can get high entitlements, because none of that is realistic. There's no actual high entitlement or high expectation of anything, really. So basically, it's like I said, both of those are still 50-50. Even in the base of fairness, still 50-50. And it will never change. The base of fairness, equality, whatnot, and it's already 50-50. By doing the movements, you're just wasting your time and breath and your energy over something that's already been established. Even be years, even many centuries before, even many years before, for that as well. And be that before the current Me Too and feminist movement. The basic fact is I'm telling you the truth. So basically, until you realize that, you're gonna have to go to the points to quit the feminist movement crap and the Me Too movement crap and get within actual reality in a spiritual sense as well as human equation aspect and sense and variable. Till then, you're going to see more and more guys go to the points to where they will realize what you're really doing and why you're really doing it when basically it has no logic to it, and you'll see more and more men go to to the MGTOW manosphere, which is a positive thing for us men, though. And you'll keep wondering where are the good men, and you go into the points of high expectations and entitlements when basically you cannot do that because you're really not doing anything better for yourself and for the world around you and for yourself within as well as spiritually. So the basic fact is, ladies, you have a lot to think about still, even after this, even if women have watched this video. And the basic fact is the reality is as it is, whether you like it or not. This planet is a learning grounds, and it will remain as such. Be that in a spiritual sense as well as a humanistic sense. We are still learning as we go, even today. Be that we are learning as we live in even in today's world, in today's day and age in society, in the basic society as well. We may think that we can change things, like you women think you can do with the Me Too movement and the current feminist movement, but those two movements are just making things worse for you mostly, as well as it's completely tearing down society, but not to the points of imbalance like it was for the Matriarchal Society. Believe it or not, it's the truth and fact and logic. And MGTOW haters still think that we hate women, but we don't. I just educated women. We don't hate women, but we don't like the fact that they think that they can get away with things, and where we have to, where they think that we have to live with it and deal with it. No, and because it goes against the Constitution and it goes against spirituality, fairness, as well as various other things. It goes against everything constitutional for us men and spiritual for us men, and for the human equation, and for within the human equation, that is. So the MGTOW haters, male and female, it doesn't matter what you think and say. What I said is an actuality and reality and logic. If you and like I said, Dawes Gags, man, if you want to talk more, let me know, my friend. This is Logical MGTOW Spot. Live long and prosper. Stay alive, and don't let anybody or anything, not even a female, try to tear you down emotionally, psychologically, because I can help you. I know the base of psychology. I know the base of the male and female psyche a lot more than people realize. I can help you, and so can many other MGTOW members. And this is again Logical MGTOW. I'm Logical MGTOW Spock. Live long and prosper. Stay safe. Stay alive. Stay strong. Stay MGTOW. MGTOW for life.